Hello there, my name's Tim, and when I introduce myself to people, I usually say something like, "Hi, I'm Tim. I write sentences about ecological awareness, and you may know me from books like Ecology Without Nature and Humankind, which have been translated into Japanese. It is a great honor to be talking with you today on the subject of food and ecology, and in particular on the subject of veganism, which is a topic very, very close to my heart. And I guess I'd like to say, first of all, everybody's feeling all kinds of feelings of panic and worry about global warming, and everybody's wondering what they can do. And there's many things we can do. One of the most important things we can do, of course, is to vote for the right people who are going to address this issue. We've got about 10 years to make this work so that the planet doesn't heat up so much that a tremendous amount of extinction happens and almost the climate could resemble the Triassic period. So we have a short amount of time, and this can induce feelings of panic and despair. And you're wondering what you can do. Voting, getting together with your community to fight for issues in your community is a good idea. And trying to act on as many different scales as possible. You can act on lots of different scales. You can be part of the Me Too movement or the Black Lives Matter movement, which are planet scale movements. And I think these movements are actually very important for creating planetary awareness that goes beyond just thinking about ourselves as members of countries, but also, I think, they are essential to ecological change because changing the way human beings relate to each other is how we change the way human beings relate to non-human beings. And in particular, ending white supremacy and patriarchy are very essential for this. So I would encourage you to be part of those movements. But also, of course, you're wondering, what can I do as an individual person? And there is something you can do as an individual person. And that something is actually much more powerful than refusing to use fossil fuels in your car or flying in a plane. Although those are important, they're more symbolic. What you can actually do as an individual human being is to eat much, much less meat and actually also less fish. But mostly less meat, from cows and so on and sheep. And this is because agricultural industry is responsible for a huge amount of global warming emissions in all kinds of ways. And so actually becoming more vegetarian and in fact going vegan, where you're not eating dairy products produced by cows, for example, is actually a very, very good idea. It's very useful for everybody to do, and it will make you feel better inside. I think right now I'm almost 100% vegan how I eat, not completely. We'll talk about that in a bit, because I want to talk a little bit about how it's okay to be a little bit of a hypocrite, actually, and you don't have to be so perfect. Being ecological does not require a huge religious change, like a kind of religious conversion to Christianity. It actually requires a very slight adjustments to your perception of things. These might actually be easier for Japanese people than for American people. Anthropocentrism means thinking that human beings are special and different, superior to other life forms. And actually, of course, this isn't correct scientifically. And morally and politically, it's not a good idea to think this thing. And so all we have to do really is drop this idea, which is actually very hard to sustain because it's so untrue. We are made of other life forms because of evolution, and we contain other life forms as part of our world. We have the stomach bacteria. I'm a huge fan of eating fermented things. I like to eat pickles very, very much. And as often as possible, I like to have umeboshi, actually, in a hand roll. It's absolutely delicious for me. And this is very good for our stomach bacteria, and it's kind to them. and we share our bacteria with other beings around us. So this is a way in which we are related to other life forms, but there's so many other ways, you know. Anyway, on the subject of veganism, one interesting issue is how to motivate ourselves to think about doing this. And I think that it's actually important to emphasize pleasure rather than emphasizing good morality or ethically upright behavior or efficiency. It's better to emphasize pleasure. I study Buddhism and I practice Buddhism. And the thing about Buddhism is that it's all about rice pudding. Actually, it's not really a vegan food unless you were to use soy milk, but maybe it could be if you were to use non-dairy milk for the rice pudding. But it's on the subject of eating and pleasure, because Buddha was in the forest, you know, and he was doing the practices with the other yogis to try to escape from the horrors of this world, and he found that it was impossible and very painful, and he was giving himself pain, and he, you know, meditating in the fire and all that kind of thing. Then along came an old lady, and we have to be very thankful for this old lady, because the old lady offered the Buddha a bowl of rice pudding, and the Buddha accepted the rice pudding, right? Siddhartha Gautama accepted this rice pudding, and you know, he wasn't supposed to. That was a big no-no from the point of view of the other yogis in the forest, but he did it. And he ate the rice pudding, and he swallowed it. Now, I don't know if you know, cholesterol is a kind of a fat that activates the dopamine in your brain. Now, dopamine is a neurotransmitter, and dopamine is responsible for telling your body that, what's the right way to think about it? It's kind of like it's patting you on the shoulder saying, good boy, well done, you did it right. And you can see how dangerous this could be, because it could, you know, when you have addictive drugs like cocaine that can actually stimulate the dopamine, you can become addicted to it. And when you get on Twitter or Facebook and somebody sends you a nice tweet and you get the dopamine, then you become addicted to wanting to get more. You know, you wonder when your friend is going to send you another text because of this. But in this case, it was a good idea. About 10 years ago, I stopped eating any cholesterol because I had a bad cholesterol in my blood. And so I stopped eating any cholesterol pretty much for 6 months, and I became totally vegan, but it wasn't in a good way. It was in a kind of discipline, punishment way. And after about 6 months of no cholesterol, I was feeling very sick, because cholesterol is actually very important. Cholesterol helps to maintain the boundary around your cells. It's a very important, you know, like the plastic insulation around your wires in your house. It's like that. So you need it. You just don't need huge amounts, right? Anyway, I was getting very sick. And I went to a place in California for holiday. I went to Bodega Bay, actually, where Hitchcock filmed the film The Birds. And I went to a restaurant, and I had a bowl of soup, and actually this was a fish soup. I love to eat fish. I do. And it, you know, it was very oily, because fish is oily, and it had lots of beautiful oil it was cooked in, and it was just looked beautiful, and it smelled beautiful. And I took a spoonful of it, and I swallowed it, and I had the first hit of cholesterol that I had had for many, many, many months. And I can tell you honestly that I went into a state of bliss. My whole body relaxed inside, and I just felt so good. And I thought about what the Buddha must have gone through. Now, I'm not saying that I'm like the Buddha. I'm a very confused, upset person, so I'm not saying that I'm like him. But I'm saying that one of the reasons why this rice pudding worked is that upon eating it, the cholesterol went in, and it was like, oh, good boy, good boy. And he realized that pleasure is the pathway to enlightenment. And very quickly after that, he became enlightened, and he became the Buddha that we know. So we have to say thank you to the rice pudding. When Buddha became enlightened, he spent the first week of his enlightenment saying thank you to the tree that he was sitting under, but I think also he should have spent some time saying thank you to the old lady, and thank you to the bowl of rice pudding, and thank you to the cholesterol in the milk, in the bowl of rice pudding, and whatever else was in there. But thank you to that, because that was what helped him realize, oh, I don't have to delete myself. I just have to rewire myself. I just have to change my pleasure. Now, it's very important thinking about this, because expanding pleasure is very much to do with what ecological politics actually is. We want to expand pleasure to include enjoying the pleasure of the dolphins, enjoying the pleasure of the coral, enjoying the pleasure of trees, assuming trees have some kind of sentience, which modern science is actually saying that they do. All life forms, if they're sentient, have some kind of pleasure or pain. And ecological politics literally just means increasing the pleasure, right? And it's pleasurable for us because we are empathetic beings who can feel other beings. When I know how much the cow is suffering, I don't want to eat the cow. When I know how much the cow suffered to give me the meat for me to eat, I don't want to eat the cow anymore. It's too much pain. So in fact, being kind to the cow and letting the cow live is also increasing my pleasure, it increasing the cow pleasure. This is a much better frame than thinking in terms of efficiency, which is in thinking in terms of denying things, but also it's in terms of making the current system work more efficiently, and the current system isn't working so great. So efficiency is the wrong metric, actually. It's the wrong way of thinking about an ecological future. It's the wrong way of thinking about justice. Justice is not about efficiency. It might even be the opposite. And in some ways, actually, efficiency, if you're only interested in efficiency and nothing else, then maybe that's also synonymous with the concept of evil. If your life is only about, or your economic system is only about becoming more and more and more efficient, at the expense of people's feelings, at the expense of people's time, at the expense of life forms on this planet, I'm looking at you, neoliberal capitalism. If that's the case, then very quickly you will destroy the planet, actually, with this metric. So I think pleasure is the metric, actually. Enhancing pleasure. Funnily enough, inhibiting ourselves and creating more discipline in our lives, I'm thinking about the parameter here of discipline in Buddhism, increases the pleasure, actually. It's not about blocking something that we really want to do. This model is very conservative and reactionary, this model that really we want to hurt people, really we want to kill and do terrible things to people. It's not true. It's better to think that actually increasing inhibition increases the pleasure. And it's always been this way, right? I mean, for example, just imagine being a murderer and you murdered another human being. And now, before you even became arrested or put on trial or sent to prison, you feel totally alien from other beings. I've researched a little about psychopaths, people who enjoy to cause pain. And they feel totally apart from the rest of society, and that is a painful situation to be in. So feeling like you're together with people is about increasing the pleasure. And of course, we could consider cows to be people in some way. We could consider at least they're sentient and they have feelings. And so when we decide to not eat the cow, we actually feel less alien from the cow. And this is the problem. We feel alienated from our world, from the natural world, from the biosphere. Everything about alienation, even in the left-wing theories, is actually about being alienated from our biological embodiment as biological beings. And for example, we have this brain, and it's part of our body. And our brain is actually something that is so much bigger than our idea of who we are and our stories about who we are. Our mind, our sense of ourself is like this, and our brain is this, and it can change, you see, and we can use pleasure to change it right now.